Hello. If you are here, it is most likely because you have gone through something you do not have language for. You met someone or re-met someone, and the connection did not feel ordinary. It felt fated, electric, uncanny, familiar, or like your entire nervous system suddenly and irreversibly switched on. Maybe you found the term twin flame and thought, finally, this explains it. I am not here to tell you whether you do or do not have a twin flame. I am not here to certify your experience or take it away from you. What you have lived in your own body and mind is yours. No stranger on the internet can reach inside you and tell you what you felt. What I am here to talk about is what happens after that moment. Because for many people, the story does not stay recognized. Contact breaks. One person pulls away, life circumstances get in the way, you are left with an intense inner experience, very little clear behavior from the other side, and a brain full of signs, synchronicities, dreams, and YouTube readings. You end up in limbo, half in a love story that feels cosmic, half in a real life where almost nothing concrete is happening. You do not know whether to wait, to go, to reach out, to let go, to date other people, or to stay single forever. You try to surrender. You try to manifest. You try to trust the journey. And somehow months or years pass while very little actually changes in three-dimensional reality. This video is not about debating the metaphysics of twin flames. It is about architecture, how to think, how to set boundaries, and how to make choices when you are inside that limbo. It is for the part of you that is tired of looping on signs and wants a framework that does not collapse the moment these intense feelings surge or disappear. I am going to talk about agency instead of fate, deed instead of feeling, and what I call exit until deed. Stepping out of uncertainty instead of living inside of it. You can keep whatever spiritual beliefs you have. You do not have to stop feeling what you feel. The point is to give you structure so that your life is not held hostage by a story with no clear mutual action in it. If you recognize yourself in that description, the intense bond, very little clarity, years of limbo, then this is for you. I am not here to tell you who your person is, but to show you how to stop abandoning yourself in the name of a connection that only truly exists when both people actually show up. Let us begin. Axiom number 1. Agency reigns supreme. Let's start with the foundation. Agency. Agency just means this. You are the one who chooses what you do. It is choice. The other person is the one who chooses what they do. That is their choice. No story, no sign, no tarot spread, no angel numbers ever cancels that basic fact. You can believe in guidance, intuition, higher planes, whatever you like. But if your belief, when you test it, would excuse someone completely for hurting you by saying it was meant to be, then that belief is not safe to build your life on. A framework like fate erases responsibility when it is inconvenient, and will eventually erase your own dignity too. In the twin flame world, people talk a lot about destiny and very little about choice. So let's bring it back to something simple and concrete. You text them a vulnerable message. They read it. They do not reply for weeks or months. During that time, you see repeating numbers. You have dreams. You pull tarot cards. You feel their energy. You get readings that say they are scared, they are coming, they love you but need time. Now, what is real in that situation? First real thing, you sent a message. The second real thing, they chose not to respond. Everything else is interpretation layered on top. Agency says their silence is their current answer. It may not be their forever answer, but it is their answer now. Destiny talk says, they cannot help it, the timing is wrong, spirit is blocking them, I have to wait. When you lean on destiny talk, you quietly move their choice into the hands of the universe. You stop seeing them as a person who is deciding right now how to treat you. You also erase your own choice in how to respond. You start to live as if everyone is just a puppet of energy instead of an adult with responsibility. That is where a lot of suffering comes from in this space. So Axiom 1 is simple. Whatever story you tell about the connection, you never give it the power to erase human choice. Not yours, not theirs. If you apply this framework of agency, you immediately run into a problem that shows up all over the twin flame content, what I call selective fate. People use fate like a dimmer switch. When something hurts, they say it was meant to be, to avoid feeling anger or setting a boundary. When something feels good, they say, I created this with my manifestation. When they want someone to change, they say, I send them healing and hope the universe wakes them up. When they do not want to apologize, they say, if it was meant to be, they will come back. You can hear the pattern. Responsibility moves around depending on who is uncomfortable. Fate gets turned on when it would be painful to own a choice, and fate gets turned off when somebody wants credit or wants the other person to do the work. If you follow that to the end, nothing makes sense. If fate erases responsibility, it erases it for everything. For the moment they ghosted you, for the months you spent stalking their socials, for the times you lashed out, for the times they lied. You cannot say it was meant to be only when it lets someone off the hook you secretly still want access to. So in this framework, we refuse selective fate. Either agency holds, or the entire moral landscape collapses. If you would never excuse a stranger for hurting you by saying it was written in the stars, do not excuse your supposed twin that way either. Now, there is another side to agency that is quieter but just as important. Sovereignty over audience. A lot of twin flame behavior is driven by fantasy of a hidden watcher. People post quotes, songs, Instagram stories, Reddit comments, YouTube videos, all with a secret hope that maybe they will see this and know it's for them. Or they do the opposite and they avoid saying what they really think because what if they see it and get upset? Both moves give enormous power to an invisible audience. Sovereignty over audience means you live and act as if there is no secret watcher. You reclaim your platforms, your speech, and your routines for yourself and for the actual people in your life, not for a hypothetical pair of eyes that might be tracking your every move. In practical terms, if you want to say something for yourself, you say it because it is true and needed, not because you hope it will provoke a reaction from your twin. If you want to rest, play games, exercise, go on with your life, you do not stop yourself because you imagine they will misinterpret it. If someone is quietly watching your socials, that does not entitle them to shape your behavior. They do not get power over your expression by lurking. You still act with basic ethics, of course. You do not smear them by name or expose private information, but you do not let the idea of their gaze decide whether or not you are allowed to exist in public. So when you put Axiom 1 together, it sounds like this. They choose what they do. You choose what you do. No sign changes that. No meant to be cancels that. No silent watcher owns your voice. Once you really let that sink in, a lot of tangled questions start to untangle themselves. You stop asking, what is the universe trying to tell me through their silence? And you start asking, given their silence, what do I choose now? You stop performing for ghosts and start living a life that would still make sense even if they never looked at you again. That is the ground that everything else in this video stands upon. Agency reigns supreme. Now, I want to talk about what is probably the hardest part for most people to swallow, and the most important. Axiom number 2. Exit until deed. In plain language, no amount of feeling, history, 5D, signs, or I just know replaces clear, accountable action in real life. Until there is direct, verifiable, risk-bearing deed from the other side, you stand outside the bond. You do not live in maybe. You exit uncertainty instead of living inside of it. First, deed over feeling. Feelings are real. Intuition, dreams, surges of energy, weird timing, synchronicities. You do not have to pretend they never happened. They are part of your experience. But they are not a relationship. A relationship is made out of observable, repeatable behavior. They reply. They call. They show up. They tell you the truth. They repair when they mess up. They take risks that could actually cost them something. Think about 2 simple timelines. Timeline 1, you feel them constantly. You dream about them. You get songs at just the right moments. You see their name everywhere. But in 3-dimensional life, they barely talk to you. They never give you a straight answer. They do not make time for you. Months pass and nothing concrete changes. Timeline 2, you are not getting many signs. No big body surges, no fireworks every day. But this person calls when they say they will. They tell you how they feel. They make plans and follow through. When there is conflict, they stay and work through it. Over time, you can rely on them. Which of these is actually a relationship? Most people in twin flame limbo unconsciously treat timeline 1 as more spiritual and timeline 2 as too ordinary. They reward intensity over reliability. Exit until deed flips that. In this framework, feelings are like weather. They can be intense, uncanny, frightening, beautiful. They can tell you a lot about what is happening inside of you. But weather does not decide whether a house is structurally sound. Deed does. So the rule is simple. Inner weather never overrides outer deed. You can feel 1,000 things, but until those feelings are matched by clear, consistent, mutual action, your stance does not change. You do not move yourself back into we because of a dream. You wait for them to put their name on the title of the house, the deed. Without authorship, you get no house. This is the home metaphor. A real bond is like a house that exists between 2 people. You both live there. You both keep it up. You both have your names on the title. In actual life, that means both people are willing to be known and accountable. They are not hiding behind masks, anonymous accounts, spiritual language, or third parties. Their identity is not a mystery. If something goes wrong, you know who did it and you know how to reach them. If someone refuses to put their name on the title of the bond, they are not a co-owner. They are just camping in your mind and emotions. The examples are simple. They only interact with you through anonymous accounts and never admit who they are. They heavily imply they are writing to you, but will not confirm it if you ask them directly. They hide behind, I cannot say it outright, but you know it is you, instead of taking the basic risk of naming and owning their words. If a person will not stand behind their behavior in plain view, you cannot treat them like a full partner in a bond. They might be having their own experience, but they are not sharing a home with you. They are borrowing your head. Exit until deed means you stop letting squatters dictate the layout of your inner house. You can care about them. You can acknowledge what you felt, but you do not give them the privilege of a co-owner until they actually step into the light, name themselves, and behave like one. This is important. No covert lanes. This is where a lot of twin flame behavior quietly goes off the rails. A covert lane is a communication you design to be for them while still pretending it is not. The classic forms are such: posting songs, quotes, or coded captions on social media hoping they will know it is about them. Writing long posts in public spaces that are essentially letters to them, but never sending anything directly. Changing your profile picture, status, or bio to send a message you are too scared to say out loud. Even meditating, sending them energy, and then treating your own inner sensations as if they were a conversation. The problem with covert lanes is not that they are evil. It is that they let you feel like you are doing something while actually avoiding the only two honest options. 1, talk to them openly in a channel where they can clearly respond, or 2, do not talk to them at all. When you stay in covert communication, you keep yourself half in a relationship and half out. You never have to face the reality of their answer, because you never really ask the question in a way that demands one. At the same time, you never truly exit because you are always sending something into the air and waiting for some kind of psychic return. Exit until deed shuts that down. If something is for them, you say so directly, in a way a normal adult could recognize. This is how I feel. This is what I want. What do you want? If you cannot or will not do that, then whatever you write, sing, post, or pray stays yours. It is for your own processing, not a secret conversation. That is not cold. It is clean. Putting all of Axiom 2 together, it sounds like this. Your feelings are allowed, but they do not define the relationship by themselves. The relationship is defined by what both of you actually do over time in real life. If the other person will not put their real name and real actions into the bond, they do not get to live rent-free in your inner world as if they have. You can care, but you do not hand them the keys. You do not build elaborate secret channels to avoid the fear of asking a simple question. You either speak plainly or step back. In between those two is where people lose years of their life. So, exit until deed does not mean you never love them again or you pretend nothing happens. It means you stop living inside a permanent maybe. You step out into a position where you are okay, whether deed ever arrives or not. If one day they show up in clear, risk-bearing, sustained action, you can re-evaluate. Until then, you are not going to allow someone to be a permanent resident in a house that only exists on your side. Exit until deed. Now, I want to talk about Axiom 3, where plenty of hidden suffering lives. Axiom number 3, clean fulcrum. Think of a bond like a financial ledger and a scale. There is your side, and there is their side. On your side are your choices, your words, your boundaries, your exits, your attempts, your mistakes. On their side is theirs. A clean fulcrum means you carry only your side. You price only what you can actually see and verify. You do not pick up their half of the weight and pretend it is noble. You do not do emotional accounting for both people while they hide in the dark. In the twin flame space, what usually happens is the opposite. One person becomes the entire accounting department. They track every sign. They reinterpret every hurt. They write long explanations about why the other person cannot show up yet. They invent growth arcs for them. They are healing, they are scared, their childhood wounds, their karma, their dark night of the soul. Most of that is guesswork, wrapped in spiritual language. Here is a simple example. They ghost you. No explanation, weeks of silence. A clean Fulcrum would say, they chose not to respond. I do not know why. The fact is that they did not show up in the moment that mattered. That goes on their ledger. An unclean Fulcrum says they are overwhelmed, spirit is blocking them, their trauma is acting up, they are purging, they are protecting me, the timing is not right. You quietly move what belongs on their side of the ledger over to your own story, and now you have to hold and maintain it. You have become their lawyer, therapist, priest, and spin doctor, all without a retainer or a signed agreement. Over time, that becomes extremely heavy, because you are not only carrying your own hurt, you are carrying the entire narrative needed to justify staying. You are holding up both ends of the bond in your head. The Fulcrum is no longer clean, it is bent. Clean Fulcrum is about dropping that. You stop laundering their behavior through spiritual explanations they never actually voiced or owned. You let their visible behavior stand as their current stance, even if you hope it changes later. If they say, I do not want a relationship, you do not translate that as, they are scared of the depth. You price it as, right now, they do not want a relationship. If they vanish, you do not translate that as, they needed to run to process. You price it as, right now, they chose not to engage. If they say cruel things, you do not translate that as, their ego is lashing out against unconditional love. You price it as, they were willing to speak to me that way. You can still believe in their potential. You can still wish them well, but you do not erase what they actually did in order to keep the story alive. Your job is to keep your own ledger clean. Did I speak clearly? Did I respect myself? Did I hold my boundary? Did I leave when the situation became fundamentally unbalanced? Did I own my mistakes and repair what I could? That is your side of the scale. Their ledger is theirs. Their debt is theirs. Their repairs are theirs. If they never do the work, that is on them, not on you for not sending enough healing or not being patient enough. You can grieve it, but you do not take over their responsibilities. Now, there is a piece that complicates this, and that is what we call body telemetry. Body telemetry are the physical sensations that we feel. The lip tingles or the way the heart hurts. These are body telemetries. However, body telemetry is reflex, not proof. When you care about someone at this depth, your nervous system gets wired around them. You may feel heart surges, gut pulls, tingles, waves of emotion, sudden spikes at specific times. You may feel it when you think about them. You may feel it out of nowhere and later notice they posted something, or a date lined up, or some other coincidence. Those sensations are real as experiences. They are not nothing. Your body is telling you that this person lives rent-free in your wiring. It is showing you where your system is reactive, open, or sensitized. But even in the most generous hypothetical, Those sensations tell you almost nothing reliable about their character, their choices, or their courage. At best, body telemetry shows reflex, not proof of them. If you touch a hot stove, your hand jerks back before you decide anything. That is reflex. If you see a message from them after months, your heart slams. That is reflex. If you post something and feel a wave in your chest a few minutes later, that is reflex. It may be patterned. It may be uncanny. It may even correlate with things on their side sometimes, but reflex is still not deed. Clean Fulcrum means you treat body telemetry as data about you, not as legal proof that the bond is real, or they must feel the same, or the universe is confirming this. When your body flares, you can say, okay, my system still reacts to this connection, and then you run your decisions through the axioms, not through the sensations. They did not reply to your message. Your chest explodes with pain and longing. You do not conclude, because it hurts this much, it must be destiny. You conclude, it hurts this much, and still their deed is silence. So my stance stays. Exit until deed. Telemetry never overrides architecture. If you have ever watched yourself feel a massive wave, think, I'm going to break, and then survive it, you already know this. The feeling passes. The structure you choose is what matters. When you put Axiom 3 together, it sounds like this. You let their actions live on their own side of the ledger, instead of constantly explaining them away. You keep your side honest and boundaried. You acknowledge your body's reactions without letting them dictate your interpretation of the situation, and you stop carrying both ends of the scale. That is a clean fulcrum. It does not mean you stop loving. It means you stop performing the entire relationship inside your own head while the other person gets to stay blurry and unaccountable. It means you are willing to feel everything you feel and still say, this is where my responsibility ends and theirs begins. Now, for the last piece, which is less about them and more about you. Axiom number 4, progressive trajectory. This one is simple and brutal in the best way. You do not need to be perfect. You do need to be moving. The question is not, did I live this whole situation flawlessly? The question is this choice cleaner, truer, and more self-respecting than the last version of me? The twin flame spaces are full of two kinds of shame. 1, I failed the journey, I messed up, I ran, I chased, I overdid it, I ruined it. Or, I know what I should do, but I keep checking, I keep going back, I keep hoping, I must be weak. Perfectionism and self-loathing work together to keep you stuck. If you decide there is only perfect surrender or total failure, you give yourself no room to grow in real time. You either pretend you are enlightened, or you collapse and say, what is the point? Progressive trajectory is a different lens. Picture your behavior as a graph over time. It does not have to be a straight line upwards. It can wiggle, spike, drop, and climb. What matters is the net direction. Here's some concrete examples. 3 months ago, you were checking their social media every day, sometimes multiple times a day, obsessing over every post. Now, you check once a week, catch yourself, and close it. Is that perfect? No. Is that cleaner than the old version of you? Yes. That is progress. 6 months ago, if they texted you after ghosting, you immediately responded within seconds, poured your heart out, and accepted any excuse they gave. Now, you read it, breathe, talk it through with someone grounded, and then reply with one clear sentence. If you ever want to reconnect, we need to have a real conversation. Is there still fear? Yes. Is your stance truer to your boundaries? Yes. That is progress. A year ago, you believed every sign, reading, and synchronicity completely. You made major life choices based on angel numbers and tarot spreads. Now, you still notice signs, but you treat them as interesting rather than orders. You base your actual decisions on what people do, not what clocks say. Did all magical thinking disappear? Probably not. Are you less owned by it? Yes. That is progress. Progressive trajectory gives you permission to be in motion instead of pretending you are already healed or finished, or, on the other extreme, doomed. The key is honesty. If you slip, you name it. I checked their page, I read more than I wanted to, I spiraled for an hour. You do not sugarcoat it. But you also ask, what did I do differently this time? Did I reach out for help earlier? Did I exit the spiral faster? Did I hold one boundary that I would have abandoned before? If the answer is yes, that is movement. Without this axiom, it is easy to weaponize others against yourself. I said exit until deed, but I still care. I am a hypocrite. I said agency reigns, but I still catch myself thinking about fate. I am failing. I said clean Fulcrum, but I still sometimes justify them in my head. That kind of self-attack misses the point. These axioms are not tests you either pass or fail one time. They are tools you pick up over and over, sometimes clumsily, sometimes well. What matters is that over time, you abandon the fate talk faster and return to agency. You spend less time in covert lanes and more time in either direct communication or clean exit. You check their ledger less and your own ledger more. You live more of your actual life, friends, work, hobbies, body, family, outside the gravity well of this one connection. You will still have days where you crash, where you cry, where you reread old messages or imagine impossible futures. That does not reset you to zero. The question is what you do after. Do you add another month in limbo? Or do you say, I had a rough day and tomorrow I am still committed to acting like someone whose life matters even if this bond never resolves? Progressive trajectory is what makes all the previous axioms livable. Agency says, the choice is yours. Exit until deed says, you do not live inside permanent maybe. Clean Fulcrum says, you only carry your side. Progressive trajectory says, you will not do any of that perfectly, and you do not need to. You just need to keep orienting yourself towards a cleaner, truer version of you, and then actually taking the next small action in that direction. If you keep doing that, the bond stops being the center of your existence and becomes one chapter in a much larger life, whether it ever resolves in a way you once wanted or not. Conclusion. To close this out, I want to pull everything back into one thread and leave you with something simple you can actually hold. The root of all of this is agency versus fate. If you remember nothing else, remember this. No story, no label, no sign, no number overrides the fact that you choose your actions and the other person chooses theirs. You can believe in guidance. You can believe there is meaning in how you crossed paths. You can believe in God, the universe, higher self, whatever name you use. None of that has to go. What goes is the idea that destiny decides how much dignity you are allowed to have. What goes is the habit of using fate language to avoid saying, they chose that, or I chose this. Exit until deed is how you protect agency in relationship. Instead of living in permanent maybe, you step out of the story until there is clear, risk-bearing, accountable action from the other side. You can still feel everything. You can still remember what you shared. You can still have hope. But you stop treating inner intensity as a substitute for outer commitment. You stop calling a one-person story a two-person bond. You let their actual behavior stand as their current answer. If one day they show up differently with deed, you can reevaluate from there. Until then, your life is not on layaway for a future version of them. Deed over feeling and no covert lanes are how you keep your architecture honest. Deed over feeling means you stop using emotion as proof of mutuality. Feelings are weather. Deeds are structure. Do they text? Do they speak plainly? Do they take real risks? Do they repair? Do they make room for you in their actual life? Those are structural questions. Those are the ones that decide whether you treat this as a living bond or as a powerful inner experience you are having mostly alone. No covert lanes closes the back doors your fear likes to open. You stop treating half-coded posts, songs, stories, profiles, and energy sends as communication. You either speak to the person in a way they can clearly recognize, or you accept that whatever you are doing is for you. That one move ends years of running side games with yourself. It forces the fork. Either you are in real contact or you are not. Either you are asking real questions or you are not. Either you are exiting or you are not. No more in between that looks like action but never risks an answer. No authorship, no house, and clean Fulcrum are how you stop carrying other people's debts. No authorship, no house says, if someone refuses to be identifiable and accountable in three-dimensional life, they do not get to live in you as a full partner. They may be important to you. They may have mattered deeply, but they do not get the privileges of co-ownership without putting their name on anything and paying their share. Clean Fulcrum says you keep your own ledger and leave theirs on their side of the scale. You stop writing elaborate spiritual explanations for their choices. You stop diagnosing their wounds from a distance. You stop turning their silence into a heroic arc you now have to carry. Your questions shift from, what are they secretly feeling, to, what did they actually do and what do I do with that? You own your side. Where you chased, where you avoided, where you stayed too long, where you broke your own boundaries, you repair what you can on your end. And then you stop picking up their responsibilities and calling it love. Telemetry as reflex is how you stop getting fooled by the intensity. Your body will react. You will get spikes, pulls, tears, warmth, chills, surges. You may feel them at uncanny times. You may feel them when you post, when you dream, when you hear certain songs. A clean architecture does not require you to deny any of that. It simply refuses to treat it as proof. At best, body telemetry shows you where your system is wired, where you are sensitized, where an attachment lives. It does not tell you whether the other person is ready, honest, brave, or kind. It does not tell you whether the bond is mutual indeed. So, let your nervous system have its reactions, and then you still run your choices through the axioms. Regardless of how this feels in my chest, what are they actually doing? Regardless of this surge, has anything changed in 3D? Regardless of this wave, do I still need to exit until deed? Intensity becomes information about you, not a verdict about them. Sovereignty is how you stop living as a performer in your own life. You stop organizing your expression, your hobbies, your recovery, your rest, your fun around the fantasy of a hidden audience. You stop withholding yourself from the actual life that you want to live because of what they might think. You stop performing for phantoms. You reclaim your platforms, your voice, your routines, and your time as if they belong to you, because they do. If they are watching from the shadows, that is their choice. It does not entitle them to shape your behavior. They do not get to be an invisible director of your story. Taken together, all of this is not about becoming cold or cynical. It is about putting the bond back into reality. You can still believe the bond was rare. You can still honor what you felt. You can still be grateful that it cracked you open in ways nothing else did. The difference is that you no longer treat that as a license for someone to be unaccountable in your life forever. You no longer treat your own pain as proof that you must stay. You no longer offer your time, attention, and nervous system as a permanent altar to a story that only one person is actively tending. Progressive trajectory holds all of it. You will slip. You will check things when you told yourself you were done. You will overthink. You will have days where your body screams at you and you want to go back to the comfort of magical thinking. The point is not to never fall. The point is that over time, you fall less hard, less often, and you get up cleaner. You trust agency more than fate. You trust deed more than story. You trust your own boundaries more than someone else's potential. You trust your capacity to build a life that is worth living, with or without resolution. If this connection ever becomes healthy, it will be through deed, not waiting, hoping, and decoding. You will not need to force it with endless pushing, chasing, or self-abandonment. It will look like two people choosing each other in reality, not one person carrying both ends in their imagination. And if it does not, your life does not end. You do not fail the journey. You will have gained something far more durable. A spine. A way of moving through any relationship, soulmate, twin flame, or ordinary human mess without lying to yourself. That is what this architecture is for. Thank you.